I artificially inject myself with 2 thoughts/emotions every single morning. I don't know anything and I don't have enough money for dinner. And I think if you can approach life that way, it doesn't matter what level you're at, you're still accelerating.
Welcome to Tip the Scales podcast, where we discuss growing and scaling your law firm. My name is Jen Gore, and I'm the new owner of the Tip the Scales podcast. Thank you, Maria.
Wait a minute, I thought Maria was interviewing me.
Today, my guest is Steve Mehr from Sweet James. And what did we talk about today, Steve?
I think we talked about AI and business and life and kids and purpose and competing.
A lot of competing. So I am here today on Tip the Scales podcast to take over for my good friend Maria. She could not be with us today here, but my name is Jen Gore. As many of you guys know, I am the owner of Atlanta Personal Injury Law Group, and I am with Steve from Sweet James. Steve, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi.
Tell us your name and a little bit about your firm in case people are living under a rock and they don't know what Sweet James is.
I am Steve Mehr, one of the founding partners of Sweet James Accident Attorneys. We operate a single event, multi-state practice with 8 offices across 4 states. And
you have an office here in Arizona, right?
Right. Yeah, we're in Scottsdale. We have an office 10 minutes from here on the border of, Phoenix, close to where Scottsdale starts. We have about a dozen lawyers there and maybe 50-ish staff.
And when did you start this firm?
2019 is when the firm launched. And we were really thinking if we should name the firm Sour Steve or Sweet James. So when James and I decided Sweet James is probably a better way to go.
So can you tell us a little bit? You said you're the co-founder. The firm is called Sweet James. A lot of people go, well, what does that mean?
Right.
How this is different.
So James is an amazing person and has a very sweet personality. You've met him.
Yes.
And when we were trying to decide on a firm name, he's like, do we use our last names? And I'm like, no, we're going to use Sweet James. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, I think it's going to work.
Was that actually his nickname?
Yes, his nickname is Sweet James.
It just works. So
and it works.
There's you and him, and then is there any other?
We have some other partners now, but initially when it started, it was James and I.
I think what's so shocking about this firm is that you're saying it's 4 or 5 years old.
5 years, September 27th. Yeah, was 5 years. So.
And how many people work there?
A lot. We'll probably be at 500 people in the next 90 days.
Okay, that's like unheard of.
Yeah, so, James had his own firm, and maybe it was 40-ish people. And my background, I was running another national firm, helped scale it up. And so, the firm might be 5 years old, but for James and I, this is definitely 25 years in the making. So it didn't happen overnight.
Okay, so you guys are, growing this firm.
Yes.
What do you think, is some of the lessons you've brought from your prior experience owning other firms that you were able to kind of like kick off a new firm differently?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is wanting to do things maybe a little bit differently than how they had been done before. And it's not, the decision making is done on a 5 or 10 year arc, which really does change your day to day, the type of decisions that you make. And I think for the people that work with me and know me, they know it's not about the money, and it's about winning and domination. And
he says that so quietly.
So yeah.
Do you like winning?
I do.
I know a little bit about your background. You were really a marketer first.
My background is that I was in the consumer electronics space. I own some retail stores and a distributorship, and it's a very low margin business. So 5-6% margins. So you can imagine it was very difficult to make money in that business. But I did become a millionaire off of that business. I went to law school. at night, put myself through law school while I had that business. And I graduated law school in 2001. I wasn't really ever thinking about practicing.
What made you go to law school, though?
I got sued by a manufacturer, and I had no clue. I was scared to death what was happening. But I had insurance. Insurance covered it. And during that process, a 6-figure check ended up as part of the resolution because I was wrongfully sued by the manufacturer. So they settled in my favor. But that was the impetus to go to law school. Just really, I need to be a better business person. And so when I sold off the businesses in 2003 and really looked at getting into law and putting my degree to use, I realized that lawyers have such massive margins and they don't realize it. And coming from a 5%, 6% margin business, it's shocking the margins lawyers have. 30, 40% margins. They're making all sorts of mistakes and they're still very successful. So I brought that mindset over of efficiency and really understanding your inventory, understanding, turnover, things that you had to be really good at in a low margin business. I had that skill set, or you don't survive. And I think a lot of lawyers don't have that skill set. So I think that was my initial competitive advantage. And I built a CRM and started tracking data. What was available in the marketplace back in 2005 or 2006 was pretty archaic. A lot of it was just file management, file folder management. It wasn't a true CRM. So the ability to look at files like inventory, data, maximize cycle times, be efficient, hire the best talent, get good results. I mean, all those things coming together really created a good formula. I scaled and sold a couple firms, bought some firms, sold some more firms, started doing consulting for other lawyers. And then through that, started consulting for a national brand, ended up buying that brand, scaled it, brought it back to life, scaled it up substantially, sold that, retired.
When was this? How old were you when you retired?
2018, I retired. So right now I'm 48, so I was 42.
So did you actually think you were going to retire?
I did. So I actually met James. He had a partnership dispute with a partner, and they were disposing of the corporate jet. I bought the corporate jet, and I was going to travel the country with my family, and I was done.
That was the vision?
That was the vision. I was done.
What happened?
My wife basically is like, I'm the CEO of the house. You're not. You need to get the hell out of here. So
you were micromanaging the house?
Absolutely. So that wasn't a good thing, and it wasn't healthy.
Entrepreneurs can really never retire.
I'll actually tell you what happened. My younger son, he's right now he's in 7th grade. He was in 1st grade, and they gave him homework, and it said, "What does your mom do, and what does your dad do?"
This is great.
And he's like, My mom does like a million things, right? Takes care of us, does all this stuff. And she's a dentist. She doesn't practice, but she's, all this stuff. What does your dad do? He watches TV all day. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Are you kidding me? Like, you don't know what I've done in my life. So, but that really, like, it bothered me.
That fired you up.
Yeah, it bothered me. I'm like, I don't want my kids growing up thinking, dad does nothing all day. I'll tell you a story. When my first child, he's 16, he's amazing. When he was born 2 pounds. Oh. And my wife went into they put her in an induced coma after the delivery. And the doctor came in and said, don't get your hopes up, because he came out, lungs collapsed. He wasn't supposed to make it the first night. And then I said, how's she's doing? And he's like, not well. And I'm like, okay, so I just had a kid and I lost both, like my 2 family members, right? Like, so it was really hard. And I remember I slept 1 week in a chair that didn't recline. And I sleep on my stomach. So that was very difficult. But I spent 1 week on the chair. They finally brought me a cot. I spent 30 days in the hospital, didn't go to work. And I promised myself if, you pray, you're like, hey, if he comes out healthy and she makes it, I will take time off. Because before that, I was just a workaholic.
So that kind of scared you in a way to really value.
I think, it put everything in perspective, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, what am I doing this for, right? Mm-hmm. So, and he had a bunch of surgeries and whatever, but he ended up being perfectly okay, super bright kid. speaks multiple languages, got his 2nd-degree black belt. He's in club volleyball now. He's amazing. She recovered. So it ended up being, it wasn't a fairy tale story for years, but it ended up becoming a fairy tale story. But the minute the doctor cleared him to travel, he was 8 months old. He came off oxygen. Doctor's like, go. We went 45 days. I just left the firm. I'm like, fuck it.
That's amazing.
Left the firm, traveled through Europe 45 days. And I've kept that. So he's 16 now. So for the last 16 years, I've kept that promise of we're gone in June. We're gone. I mean, every opportunity we get, we're gone. So it adds up to 2.5 months a year. And I wouldn't do it any other way. And it makes you a better operator. Because when you leave for 30 days, you come back, you see what broke, and then you put proper systems and processes in place. So I do think you can have that balance. Now, that being said, I'm always on. I love what I do, so it's not work. So I put in an incredible amount of hours. So this, including weekends, especially now that he's in club sports and he has tournaments on the weekends.
He's busy.
The kids are busy and I end up at the office. So this last Sunday I was there 7 hours. Saturday I was there 7 hours. So there is, you pay the price for being able to take that 2.5 months off a year. So
now that you're back in work mode, what does he think you do?
Oh, the little one? He knows. He knows.
Does he know?
They both want to be lawyers.
Oh, really?
The older ones came a few days and worked at the office. Screened some intake calls. Listen, he came to me and he's like, these three intake agents are amazing. They're so good with the clients, and these other ones really don't care about your clients, Dad. You should listen to the recordings. So sent the recordings over to HR, and there was some corrective action. So
a topic I'm really passionate about is raising independent children.
Right.
I think the wealthier you get, the more access to opportunity you get. It may not be the same as the childhood you had.
Right.
So how are you dealing with that?
They'll never have the adversity that I had growing up, which gives you the grit and the drive. But I think what I just keep pounding into these two is obviously beyond being a good world citizen. They've traveled so much. They're also very quiet, very patient, very humble. But you got to add value. If you add value to the people around you, you're going to have good relationships. If you add value into the universe, you're going to be a business owner and you're going to be able to make money. And you're going to have loyal employees. So I think what's lost upon most people is adding value to the people and things around you. And I think that's what I really impress on them.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that they have a perspective of how much it's taken to get you where you are?
Absolutely not.
No.
No.
I mean, it's such a hard question for parents,
Yeah.
It's like we work so hard
It is.
to give them a great life. And then you're like, but also that comes with its own challenge, right?
Yeah. And you don't want them to have that. You don't want them to have your dysfunction, right? So I think most high performers come from a place of dysfunction or something to prove. And I think, I come from both. I have something to prove and a lot of dysfunction behind it. So I think that, I would never want my children to go through that.
Talking about that, like you've said on other podcasts, kind of like what led you to become so competitive. Was it kind of your immigrant background?
Yeah, I think there's a combination of things. I think some of my dysfunction is probably feeling like I was never good enough. And then that kind of, as you get older, you become a competitor. And I played basketball, ran the 100 meters, and just, you compete harder and harder and harder. And then you get in the real world and you're still competing and it just becomes part of who you are. So I guess to a sense, I know I'm good enough, but those emotional pieces are still, part of how you developed. So
was there certain points you can look back on and like think like, oh shoot, I am actually like really smart and like, because like, when you have that competitive nature, sometimes you never really realize how good you are.
I artificially inject myself with 2 thoughts/emotions every single morning. I wake up super early and my wife's sometimes like, how do you wake up every day like this at 5:30? You're like launching like a missile out of bed. And I'm like, I have 2 thoughts every morning. And now it's subconscious. I would think, I'm dead broke. I need to figure out dinner tonight. And the second thought is, I need to learn something that I don't know anything. And I think it's the I don't know anything, I need to learn something is what keeps you humble.
It keeps you so dangerous.
Well, and it allows you to learn from everybody. It doesn't matter who it is, right?
Yes.
So every day I wake up, I don't know anything, and I don't have enough money for dinner. And I think they're terrifying emotions that set in. And now I understand now it's an artificial injection, but it's what allows me to compete at this level still today. So, I wake up every day. I'm broke and I got to figure out how to make money for dinner, right? And I think if you can approach life that way, it doesn't matter what level you're at, you're still accelerating.
I hang out with a lot of people in the industry and people that own really big firms around the country, and you appear to be the most hungry, one of the most hungry. I think there is this danger when you get really big and you make a lot of money that you can kind of get comfortable.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So is that what you're kind of battling, just constantly thinking like that?
Yeah, I don't know if I battle. Do you have thoughts of what your alternative, reality could be, when money is no longer an obstacle to anything? Yeah, sometimes, but at the same time, because I'm not getting out of bed for money, it makes it much easier. I think if I was getting out of bed for money, then I would have stopped a long time ago. And I think at this point it is,
it's got to go.
I am hungry and I'm broke and I need to learn something. And now when you practice that for 20, 25 years, it is who I am. I can't change that. Every day I wake up, I need to learn something, and it's less so like I got to pay for dinner, but it's that drive to compete. It's that drive to compete. So
there's so many parallels to our lives. So my dad retired at 42.
Right.
And I have a sister who's 12 years younger than me.
Okay.
So her whole life, he's pretty much been retired.
Right.
Well, I think he retired when she was 5.
Okay.
So she really doesn't
remember.
And so my childhood, seeing my dad, he was hustling all the time. He's an entrepreneur. He's working. And so those are my memories of my dad. But my sister's memories of my dad are that he's retired.
Right.
And it dramatically affected how I am and how she is. Her parents have been retired her whole life.
Right.
She doesn't really know how we got where we were. Yeah. And I think it's good that you recognize that. And he's going to see I'm just
correct
sitting around.
I'm an extreme high performer. I just have 2 gears, and it's usually
0 or 100.
Yeah, 0 or 100. So I was in that 0 mode, and I was like, okay, this is not sustainable. It's not healthy for the family. Somehow fast forward 8 or 9 months, me and James decided to tie the knot and take a shot at a different type of a law firm. And when you come out of retirement and you put most of your chips on the table and go, I think it's definitely with a different type of fire. And you're competing for a very different, you're not competing to just make incrementally more money. You're competing to actually change the game. So I think,
what does that mean, change the game? You came in and you're if I'm going to come back to work, I want to go all in.
There's a better way, not only be all in, there's a better way of doing things. And I think, right off the bat, I was self-aware that really the firm of the future is a litigation firm that's branded properly, as opposed to most advertising firms they're not really, they don't have the trial arm set up properly.
They're more
pre-lit, they're mills, their results aren't there. So it was kind of reverse engineering, having both the brand and the litigation.
So my question is, how did you you're in a very competitive market, as everyone always says, in Southern California. You have some of the best trial lawyers in that market. How did you get them to come work for Sweet James and take the entity seriously?
A lot of relationships.
So
there was a lot of relationships that I had, leading up to it, I made quite a few phone calls that were, I have a really good home for you. This is my last stop. I'm not not going to sell this firm, and I need you to come over and I got them aligned and sold on what the vision is. and brought over some really talented people that are just, have delivered and they're killing it, so.
What do you say to people out there that say you can't build a litigation firm unless the owner is litigating cases themselves?
Yeah, that doesn't apply to us. So this is, I am the strategic visionary and the CEO, and I am deeply involved in files, including strategy, valuing files. When the cases go to trial, I'm actually very involved. But I'm not the person in the courtroom or taking the expert depositions or doing the trial work. I think that conversely, that top tier litigator probably can't do what I do either.
They can't at all.
And the beauty of what I do is I can scale what I do, where if you have a top tier litigator, it's kind of difficult to scale. You might be able to scale a team around them, but you certainly cannot scale 450 people around them.
Yeah.
To do what they do. So,
but they're very valuable.
Absolutely.
But they're a key component to a firm.
Absolutely a key component. I think in the past, you used to be able to be a good operator and you'd be a successful law firm. You used to be a good marketer, you'd be a successful law firm. Or you were a really good litigator and you'd be a successful law firm. And I think in today's market, you have to be all three. And I think that's the value proposition that Sweet James adds to the marketplace. We are extremely competent at all three. We're very good at marketing. We have a 26-person in-house marketing and branding team. We are very good at operations, processes, systems, efficiency, everything from AI through how we do our document review, file reviews. I would say our operations probably second to none. And our litigation department has a lot of bright talent and some extremely talented trial lawyers. We've gotten some record-setting verdicts. I brought the managing partner of the firm I've known since he was 17, but he was in government. And I got him to join the firm after almost 15 years as a serious crimes prosecutor. And he'd been featured on crime TV shows and this and that. And so it really was putting victim advocacy first, and that's the tone that we wanted to set for the firm. This is victim advocacy at its greatest. So the person leading the firm is not, just a victim advocate to his core. So, So there's a lot of moving parts to it.
So I do remember you talking at one point about you used to go into other firms and help them market and brand.
Yes.
So does this come naturally to you?
It does. I'm a little bit of a media geek. I own some newspapers and magazines, and even from when I was in my electronics business, I would actually draw my ads down to the smallest details. So I have a little bit of an artistic eye. I wanted to be an architect growing up.
Did you?
I did, but I was horrible at math.
Join the club.
So, like most lawyers. So I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to work, because when I went to school, math meant you were attached to a calculator at your hip. And nowadays, everything's done on computer or CAD. And it's different. So maybe if I was in school today, I would be an architect. But back then, math was definitely not my strong suit. So,
but a lot of lawyers struggle at figuring out what their brand identity is. All of that. It seems to come very natural to you.
Well, I think part of it is James. If you've seen him on TV, he is lightning in a bottle, and I tell him all the time. And he really should have been. He's like George Clooney. He really should have been an actor. It's unbelievable. He's incredible in how he can connect with people. And he had never done any sort of scale advertising. He'd never been on TV. So was trying to capture that magic that I saw, right? Trying to capture it, and hopefully the audience would see it. And it did come through. And we also positioned the firm a little bit as the rock and roll law firm. So
fun.
I know, you know the firm, and it's definitely, we have an annual Oktoberfest, party. And we have, it's the rock and roll law firm. I don't know how else to explain it. We just are. It's a little bit edgy.
It is.
It's not
fun.
not the old guard. It's from a branding perspective, it is based a little bit on James. So there's that personal branding, but it also isn't. It's a big firm. He's not on all the marketing material. People understand it's a big firm. So you kind of getting like the best of both worlds. And it's very nuanced, and it's a fine line to dance around, but it works, and it's very effective.
So the first time I met people from Sweet James was at a conference. You guys would go to a lot of events, not necessarily always you,
Right.
but my good friend Elisa goes
Right.
to a lot of conferences. So she's out and about on behalf of your firm. A lot of people are, confused. They don't know, is she, in every market, or, what is her role? She's
licensed in.
She's licensed in a lot of places.
She's licensed in the 5 states I think we operate in, and
she's very smart.
And her role is to be essentially a brand ambassador to the industry. So
and she's done that.
She does an amazing job at it. I think she's, part cheerleader, but when you get to know her, she's also part extremely intelligent, smart lawyer that knocks it out of the park for the role that she's in, and I think that role was also made for her. She loves people, and she has a lot of energy. So
yeah, but I remember when she was not working at Sweet James, she was at another firm. You must have met her and somehow said this makes sense, right?
Yes, I don't quite remember how we met, but I remember after talking with her, the role that she's in is not a role I was, we didn't have particularly that role, but I'm like, I think you would actually be perfect for the role, and the brand would be a very good match. So, she does some business development and really is a face towards the industry, because, a lot of people do wonder who we are. So
yeah, I remember the first time I saw her and Sweet James at, I think it was Huntington Beach. Everyone knows who they are. They're like celebrities there in California.
James cannot have a meal even outside of California.
Wow,
I've
that's
been
incredible.
all over the country with him, and he gets stopped everywhere. So.
And you get the ability to be anonymous.
That's the beauty of it, and that's how I want it.
You're so smart.
It's not even that. It's just, some days I envy him, but I think most days I don't. I think it takes a certain type of personality, like yours, to want to be in the public eye all the time, and you're comfortable with it. And I think for me, I want to be left alone to do my best work, kind of like an artist, and when I'm done, I want my peace and quiet, and then just rinse and repeat the next day. So it's just I don't. I shy away from recognition for the most part.
Yeah,
so if I go to a restaurant, I always ask for a corner table. Like that stuff doesn't, I want to compete. And I want to destroy. And somebody was talking to me about this, and it's like, no, I don't want to win by 1 point or 2 points. I want to make sure you never play the game again. So I want to embarrass you. So, and that's a little bit of an issue sometimes. But that being said,
I mean, it's gotten you everywhere you've gotten today.
It's fun.
Competing's
fun.
He's like, you're very low profile, though. You're very humble.
I am. There's when it comes, I think, to profile and money and showing off, my philosophy is it's one of two things are going to happen. Either you're going to make somebody feel really bad about themselves and they're going to hate on you, or they already have more than you and they're looking at you like, what an idiot, right? So there's no winning with that. So for me, I don't wear a fancy watch, and I'm usually in a black t-shirt if you know me, or a black polo shirt. So it's just, those things don't impress me. So
yeah, we can all aspire to get on your level, Steve. So let's talk about the future of law, because you're very data driven.
Yes.
You're very focused on the law firm of the future.
Yes.
And you're very focused on efficiency.
Yes.
So tell me what you see for the law firms that are listening for 2025, 2026.
Obviously technology and AI are kind of hot topics in the industry right now, but it's very relevant. I think a lot of people are talking about it. Very few people are using it. In our firm, we're actually have been using it for some period of time. We have AI in the mailroom. where we receive about 500,000 documents a month. And the AI, all our mail, including attachments of email. So any type of document coming in and out of the firm gets captured by AI. The AI opens essentially that document up or that attachment or that scan or PDF up. It scans it, OCRs it, has vision AI and generative AI where it triangulates validates multiple data points within the document to understand what clients matter it's associated with. And then it opens up we're on a Salesforce platform. It opens up our platform and routes the document not just to that client's matter, but each of our matters, we have a 13 file folder structure. So it'll even put it within the right folder within the matter, meaning if it's a medical record or if it's a pleading, if it's a bill, whatever it is. So correspondence. So it'll name it properly.
And put it in the file.
And put it in the file, in the right folder within the file. So that allowed us to reduce our mail staff. We were in the 20s and we went down to 6 data validators, essentially, that when the AI doesn't know where a file should go, it goes to a validator and they'll push it through. But a substantial amount of our documents, about 2/3 of it, is making it into a client's file without any human intervention.
Amazing.
And then obviously it alerts the lawyer and does all that stuff. And then once you start capturing all of your data, then you could build workflows off of that data. So we've built workflows off of bills. So bills get flagged separately. So if there's a bill that's, let's say, over $10,000 from a hospital or damages, it alerts a supervisor, where now I'm not relying on mailroom staff or a case manager or a paralegal to alert, trigger a file review, a higher level file review. It's happening on an automated basis.
Because human error, people are not going to see that, then we miss that, then maybe the policy limits are low or,
Right. So this has gotten rid of missing bills. There's a lot of naming convention errors, and now we're building workflows where it's flagging certain documents for additional review. It's triggering a waterfall of other tasks off of the documents. So that's happening. We use Esquire Tech on the discovery side, where you don't have to copy paste anymore on discovery, and that's saved us quite a bit of paralegal and attorney time. We're working with the guys at EvenUp on our own internal claims intelligence platform, modeling all of our data. We've loaded our last 3 years. I think they said it was 10 million documents of claims history.
Wow.
Validated all the data. Now we're using that to model outcomes within files. I'm talking about all this stuff, and I know in 6 months, none of the stuff's going to be relevant anymore.
I mean,
but these are the type of things that we are doing and have been doing
for a while.
That we've gained massive efficiencies, and it's allowed us to scale very fast.
So I just saw you talk on an AI panel here at the Business of Law, and you get the sense that a lot of people in the audience are very afraid of technology and AI, just based on the questions. I don't get the sense that you are afraid of AI.
No.
So tell me why people, being afraid of it is not the answer here.
No, it's not. I mean, there was a learning curve. So about 14 months ago, I started my own journey on, I'm going to say mastering, but it's really not. I still have barely an understanding of this stuff. But I started reading as many articles as I could. I set the alerts on all my news aggregator apps and my news apps to alert me as to AI articles. And I just started the journey of understanding how it works. And until you deploy some of it, you don't quite understand its value.
I agree.
So that was a journey. So, I'm 14 months in. Definitely, I sit on these panels. Sometimes I definitely don't feel like an expert, but but it seems like we're ahead of where most firms are in its use, because we are now using it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the AI companies are very shy around this idea of talking about it reducing payroll, and you're very
we went from 28 people in the mailroom to 6.
So
now that being said, we recycled those employees in other roles because we're scaling and growing. If we weren't, I had an extra 22 employees payroll, which would be amazing, but we redeployed those employees in other areas where we need them. But it absolutely drives massive efficiency, and it is going to, people will lose. There will be some job loss. There will be.
Do you have any predictions on private equity and AI and anything like that you see that's coming that, there's a lot of people that are worried about these things?
About AI taking their jobs?
AI taking their jobs, or private equity coming in and just buying up all the law firms, and the law firms are no longer owned by lawyers at all?
I think that the horse is left with the ABS structure that they implemented in this state. We've been operating here obviously well before that, and it definitely has driven the cost up. So I think the venture funds and the financial capital swishing around in Arizona, they're still trying to figure their models out, but there will be a meshing of venture capital funds or PE groups with marketing companies and or firms that have brands meshed with good operators. These three things are going to all converge together. And it's probably going to happen over the next few years, and it's going to happen very quickly. And that's part of the reason why we're trying to scale so fast, to make sure we can withstand the industry evolution that's going to be natural.
Do you think it will be like the Aspen Dental model?
I think it's going to be the same thing that happened to how hospitals moved into the specialty groups, medical groups 10 or 15 years ago. If you look at all, like, let's say the orthopedist groups or pretty much any type of group, they came in, and now if you look at an orthopedist group, they're all attached to some hospital system. They're owned by the hospital. They're rarely owned by the doctors, or the doctors own a very small piece of it. And I think that consolidation has started, and it's coming. And a lot of the firms I've talked to, and I have talked to venture capital funds, and I have had some verbal numbers thrown around for our firm, and they're serious. I mean, this it's happening. So, like, I think the people that think it's not happening, or that an ABS needs to come to their state for it to happen, that's not the case. They're doing, the funds I'm talking to are doing it without an ABS. They're doing it through having a intellectual property holding company that you pay a licensing fee that essentially strips the profit of the law firm, and then that law firm is beholden to that company. For example, it would be putting the IP of Sweet James, the trademark, the logos, the website. You put everything in there, and it handles your accounting and this and that, and now it gets, let's say, 40% of every dollar Sweet James make. Well, essentially, not only are you covering some of the operational overhead, because it would be doing some professional services for the law firm, but you'd also, as part of that, be stripping all of the profit out of it as well. So, and that's how they're approaching it, and that's how they're getting around investing in these law firms in other states. So I think everybody's so focused on the ABS. The large funds with billions of dollars, they don't care about ABS. The ABS is not on their radar. It's they're handling it through an IP holding company, service providing company. So yeah.
If somebody was listening right now and they're a brand new lawyer, they're just starting, they got their bar license today.
Okay.
What advice would you give them? I
mean, stay on the cutting edge of technology for sure. And I would go out on your own. I don't think you would want to work for a firm. I think that the future is a lot of solo practitioners and people who could figure it out with very few staff because of the tools that they have, like AI. It's going to be a magnifier where, like, a lawyer and a staff of 3 or 4 could probably do the work of 20 or 25
now.
And they'll be able to still make an excellent living. And then there's going to be the mega firms. When consolidation happens, kind of the middle of the market is what gets torn apart right away. And I think we're kind of seeing that, where the larger guys are getting larger faster and faster. And the smaller guys are hitting a ceiling, and they can't break through that ceiling.
Yeah. Okay, so we're kind of coming to the end of our time here. Can you tell me, like, 1 or 2 books that you would recommend? It doesn't have to be legal, that have changed your life or that you're big into. I know you're into mindset stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think business-wise, it's Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. I make all my managers read it, and I always plug it when I can. It's a very good book. It applies to professional service companies, and it gives you kind of the blueprint. And that's the blueprint I've used the last 12 or 15 years. So that's an excellent book. The other book I'm reading right now is the Elon Musk biography. So I don't know what it's called, but yeah.
This is the most recent one?
The most recent one.
Anything good that you got out of that so far?
I mean, I love everything he does. He's today's Einstein or Thomas Edison, whatever you want to call him. So his brain thinks differently, and it's good business case study. And there's things about how he has scaled his different businesses that do apply to everything that we do that you could bring back. So.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. I know I had to twist your arm to make you come out in public.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you so much for coming on. And Maria, you're welcome.
Yeah, miss you, Maria.
Thanks to Steve for joining us today. And if you found this podcast valuable, go ahead and subscribe and like. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode run by Jen Gore.